All right, everybody, I'm Logan Alec. I'm a CPA. This is your stimulus update for Wednesday, May 27th. So the first thing I want to talk about today is what's going on in Jacksonville, Florida right now. You might say, Logan, why are you talking about Jacksonville? You know, most of you don't live in Jacksonville, so why am I talking about this? I'm going to explain to you what's going on, and then I'm going to elaborate it why it applies to all of you. All right? So last night, the Jacksonville City Council approved an additional round of $1,000 stimulus checks for 5,000 households in the city of Jacksonville and surrounding communities. I say additional because the city of Jacksonville previously did this with 40,000 households. Why is this significant? If you live in Jacksonville, you already know about this. If you don't live in Jacksonville, what does it matter to you? Here's why it matters. Because the money that the city of Jacksonville is using to do this is money that was appropriated to the city of Jacksonville and its county through the CARES Act, right? The CARES Act did allocate some federal funding to state and local governments. And out of that funding that the city of Jacksonville received, it's issuing stimulus payments to its residents. Now, in the next relief bill, what is the Democrats' trophy piece? Additional funding for state and local governments. In the HEROES Act, Democrats proposed for nearly $1 trillion going to state and local governments, all right? Republicans aren't going to sign off on something like that, okay? But they might sign off for, who knows, maybe half of that, right? Or something, okay? And we do know that McConnell said he'd be open to more federal funding for state and local governments if it's contingent on liability protection for businesses that are reopening, okay? Why does this matter to you? Well, first of all, you got firefighters, you got teachers, right? Where do you think their paychecks come from? They obviously come from state and local governments, right? But beyond that, if there's more federal funding for state and local governments, it's possible that more states, cities, counties, municipalities across the country could institute their own stimulus programs similar to the city of Jacksonville, okay? So that's why I want to keep an eye on this, all right? Because I know a lot of you are interested in more stimulus checks. Well, there might be a round coming from your state or city, right? I did a video on May 7th called Will More Stimulus Checks Come from States and Cities, where I give other examples of states and cities doing similar things. Please go check that out if you're interested in learning more. All right, so just real quick, I'm going to keep talking about this because I still see reports of people throwing away their debit cards. If you get an envelope from the Money Network Cardholder Services, okay, and you feel there's a card inside, that is your stimulus debit card, okay? There's still a lot of confusion about this. Reports are all over the news of people throwing away their stimulus cards. I was just in a Facebook group this morning called like Tax Professionals of America or something like that. And someone posted in that group, this was a tax professional. Don't think she's a CPA, but she is a tax preparer in some capacity with her own book of clients. She put a picture of the stimulus debit card in the Facebook group along with the letter that comes with it. The legitimate debit card, stimulus debit card, the EIP card. And she asked the group, hey, everybody, this is a scam, right? My client just got this. I should tell her to throw it away, right? And everybody's like, no, that's the stimulus card. That's the stimulus card. So this just goes to show me that, look, if this person who is, supposedly a tax professional is so confused about this, right? I know many people out there are probably going to be confused about this as well because I don't want you to go off throwing away your stimulus debit cards, okay? Go to my update on May 23rd. About 2 minutes into that video, I get into what the stimulus debit cards look like on the front and the back, all right? Speaking of scams, though, okay, and I'm going to keep talking about scams as well, okay, because so many people are getting scammed right now with the stimulus and all the unemployment going around. So I want to tell you this very sad story, okay, and give you some lessons that you can learn from it. So, Pembroke Park, Florida. The victim's name is Erica Reyes. She lost her entire life savings to a stimulus scam. Well, it's more like an unemployment scam. But basically, look, this poor woman, she lost her job in March. She's only 32 years old. She lost her job in March. She hasn't received unemployment yet. She gets a call last week. The guy on the phone says he's from the Social Security Administration. And then she said that right when he heard that, her guard went down. She literally said, my guard went down. She's like, oh, fantastic. Finally I'm getting help. So that was, all he had to do was lie. and say he's from the SSA in order to get her to trust him. Why? Because she's desperate right now, right? She thinks, oh, this guy's going to help me. Then what does he say? He convinced her that her social security number had been used in a money laundering scam in Texas, and she was the focus of an investigation, right? And now in her mind, her brain is trying to put together the pieces, right? That's what her brain likes to do. Her brain likes to find order, right? So now she already has, this guy's already established trust with her. What is her brain doing? Her brain is now saying, oh, yes, this makes sense. This is why you haven't received your unemployment benefits yet, because your social security number has been compromised. Many of you out there may get similar calls, and your brain may try to rationalize this and say, oh, this is why I haven't gotten my stimulus payment yet. It's because my social security number has been compromised, just like this guy on the phone is telling me. How does the story end? Well, the guy on the phone told her, because of this money laundering case that compromised your social security number, you have to safeguard your money because it's going to be frozen. All your accounts will be frozen. So what did he instruct her to do? This is crazy. He said, you got to take all your money out of your bank account, and you got to mail it to us in cash. And you also got to max out your credit cards to buy gift cards, right? Because your credit cards are compromised too. So you got to go buy gift cards and send them to us for safekeeping. She did that. And then she realized that she lost all her money, right? And it looks like very hard to trace. These scammers are so hard to trace, right? They know exactly what they're doing, and they can make it almost impossible to trace them. And you might look at this lady and say, well, duh, like who tells you to put cash in an envelope, right? And who tells you to max out your credit cards on gift cards? Of course this is a scam. And she even acknowledges, right, that she knew that there's scammers like this out there. But in that moment of desperation, right, when she heard a voice on the phone giving her a little bit of hope, that's when all that logic and all that rationality and all that stuff she knew before went right out the window, okay? So please don't think it can't happen to you. If anybody asks you, obviously, to send cash in the mail, or if anybody asks you to send gift cards, for crying out loud, that is a scam. Okay, why do crooks love cash and gift cards? Because they can't be traced. They're hard to trace, right? So I'm just putting this out as a warning. I like to bring up these scams just so that, if you're ever approached from a scammer, hopefully you'll remember stories like this and just think, okay, the red flags will go off, right? The IRS, Social Security Administration, will never call you like that and ask for your social security number and do any of that stuff, okay? I know it's hard right now because some of you are still waiting for your checks, but please continue to be patient. All right, let's talk briefly about reopening. South Korea, right? South Korea was originally, and still is. It was one of the countries that we looked at and said, oh, they really did things right. They got the tracing, they got testing. They're taking temperatures whenever you walk, went anywhere, and as a result, right? The number, they've only seen about 11,000 cases and 269 deaths. Right? It's pretty good. And the country has slowly been reopening, right? But there was a spike in cases yesterday. 40 new cases yesterday. Biggest single day increase in nearly 50 days, right? Almost 2 months. And now they're saying, okay, well, we might have to put some more restrictions in place just like we used to. Why am I saying this? Okay? Because the same thing can happen here, right? And we aren't even at the place that South Korea was. We're doing a lot worse right now than they are. Okay? And the reason why this whole reopening debate and all this matters is because it directly affects the economic recovery and it directly affects the next relief bill. Now, yesterday, Dr. Fauci said, okay, that a second wave of coronavirus isn't inevitable, right? It's not a given, right? We just have to practice, appropriate safety measures and social distancing, right? This is a slightly different change of tune than he had previously said, right? Because last month he said that a second wave of COVID-19 was unavoidable. That's what he said. But now he's changing his tune to a more optimistic tone, right? He's saying, it's not inevitable that's going to happen, okay? I'm not a virologist, not a medical expert, but I do think that change of tone from our nation's top expert on infectious disease is interesting and may give a glimmer of hope, all right? That said, this virus is very scary. Another example, look at Singapore. Singapore was another one of those examples where people said, oh, wow, they did things right, right? So few cases. Now, according to some data, Singapore has more infections per capita of COVID-19 than the United States. right? That could be because they're testing more and all that. They have a much lower fatality rate, right? Which could indicate that maybe they're just testing more, or, I'm not going to speculate on all that, okay? But my point is Singapore was doing really well, and then, right, cases exploded amongst a certain class of people in Singapore. So, I'm not sure when we're going to be out of the woods on this, but I do know that Republicans will be looking at all this data and trying to figure out what the best plan forward is. Because frankly, the ball's in their court, right, for the next stimulus, the next relief package. Democrats have put forward something. Yes, many Republicans think it's a joke, right? But at least they've made that first move. Okay, now it's up to Republicans to, figure out what they want to do going forward in terms of relief. Yesterday, McConnell said that he just kind of said the same thing that I've told you he said before. He said it's likely there's going to be another relief bill in the next month or so. He said, many of you are asking, what next? I think there's likely to be another bill. It will not be the $3 trillion bill the House passed the other day, but there's still a likelihood that more will be needed. In the next month or so, we'll be talking about possibly another bill. So this is basically the same thing he's been saying, right? Recently, there may be another bill. It's possible there's going to be another bill, and all that. So that's not really news, other than he hasn't changed his tone, right? He hasn't went from, oh yeah, there's probably going to be another bill, to, oh no, I don't think so. No, he hasn't changed his tone. He's still kind of saying the same thing he's been saying for a while, which is maybe as good as we can expect from Mitch McConnell right now, right? That said, Mitch McConnell's kind of line in the sand in terms of a next stimulus package is that liability protection for businesses, hospitals, whatever other enterprises that are reopening right now, right? He wants to ensure these businesses can't be sued by a customer or employee who says, hey, I got COVID because I went to your establishment, right? He wants to protect business owners from lawsuits like that, okay? Pelosi and Schumer didn't put that in to the HEROES Act, okay? Schumer was involved, but Pelosi didn't put that into the Schumer's Act. I can't talk today. Pelosi didn't put that in the HEROES Act, right? And Schumer doesn't look like he's on board with that either, okay? But some other Democrats seem to be more on board with giving in to what McConnell wants in terms of liability protection. Senator Christopher Coons of Delaware, he said he wants some form of liability protection for businesses. He says the simplest and most powerful solution to liability protection is to have a science-based, enforceable standard for the protection of employees and customers. I don't support a path forward where we don't offer clear regulatory guidance and we don't offer liability protection. Okay? Doug Jones, another Senate Democrat, said we've got to have some balance on some things. Okay, I think we have to be very careful in protecting businesses. I think we can find an appropriate balance if it doesn't get into partisan politics. I hope we can figure it out. Okay, so my point is, look, right, sometimes we tend to paint Republicans or Democrats with a broad brush, typically by just looking at what the leaders are saying, Pelosi, McConnell, Schumer, McCarthy, whatever, or Trump. But there are other members of Congress who are in these parties who have good ideas and who may be more willing to compromise with the other party than sometimes the leaders are. But of course, as a senator said last week, sometimes these bills, how it works is usually the people on the top get together and negotiate, and they come out with something, and they put it before the junior congressmen and congresswomen, and then they grovel and groan, but then they eventually pass it. Anyway, my point is, look, anything can happen, okay? And there will have to be compromise on both sides. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but we talked about how the $600 a week unemployment benefit, that's not going to last past July 31st, right? Republicans are not keen on extending that. Well, kind of just to add more fuel to that, White House economic advisor Larry Kudlow said yesterday that he frankly does not believe the $600 plus will survive the next round of talks. Okay, but he did say, but I think we'll have substitutes to deal with that issue. Told you yesterday, told you a couple weeks ago about Senator Portman and and Representative Bradley, how they want to kind of have a back-to-work bonus, right, to give you more stimulus or more unemployment, or whatever you want to call it, if you go back to work. So we'll see what becomes of that. We know that going to the CARES Act, many Republicans, they wanted to cap, right, the total unemployment folks get, both from the state and feds, or federal funded unemployment that goes through the state at, whatever their wages were before, so that people couldn't make more on unemployment than they did while they were working. Okay, so we might see something like that as well, or maybe something even a little more severe, right? Because if you compare with making the same amount that you made when you were working with going back to work, what are you going to choose, right? You'd probably just choose to not work and make the same amount of money. So they might come up with something even more severe there. All right, so that is the update for today. Please watch out for scams. Please tell your friends to watch out for scams. Okay. And please don't give up hope if you haven't received your next stimulus yet. Lots of comments yesterday saying that, people are seeing that May 28th date on Get My Payment, right? That's tomorrow. So check out the comments, interact with others, continue to ask questions. I might do another Q&A session here in the next week or so. All right, everybody, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.